Greetings everyone. In my recent video I made of Queen Dihya, the North African queen who stopped the horde of Muslims invading and pillaging. Yes, a tribal queen of the Berbers who was able to defeat the Muslims and push them back. In the what if scenarios, I was able to show what happens if she encountered Jesus Christ and the blessing she would receive in victory and how she would go down in history. However, I'll be telling you about how things went down in a real scenario, not the alternate one I made. So I decided to draft my thoughts and tell you how it went. In 682, the Muslims were expanding into North Africa and were pillaging, forcing themselves on the women and children and taking them into slavery for whatever pleasure they deemed. But the nation of North African Berbers were unwilling to be forced into subjection and to convert to the satanic Islam religion. They rose up against the invaders, making an alliance with the Byzantines and preventing Muslim armies from taking over North Africa. The Muslims in 682 were ambushed and defeated. The Berber and Byzantine alliance won a great victory, stopping the satanic rise of Islam. Till 698, 16 years later, when they came back and defeated the Byzantines at Carthage and took the city. The Muslim expansion was stopped again by the Berber queen Dihya, to whom the Muslims referred to with such hatred that they accused her of using black arts, which was able to defeat them, and that she was a Jew, a claim that many Muslims make about foes they hate the most and lose to, which you could find in Surah 582 of the Quran. That explains their most determined foes are Jewish. I guess that makes me Jewish too. In that year, 700, Queen Dihya of the independent Berber kingdom was defeated, and the last stronghold to hold off Islam had fallen. It interests me that a queen, a woman, was able to humiliate the Muslims and drop them from expanding in North Africa till her defeat. And yeah, I gotta agree. To all those that are Muslims or Muslim sympathizers of the Satanic Quran, I gotta ask, how does it feel to be beaten by a woman? And I mean a woman that didn't have the Byzantine Empire power or that wasn't a great nation, but she was a strong leader who beat you guys bad, that you had to call her a Jew and say she was using like black arts. I mean, that's really embarrassing that you got beat by a woman and that you couldn't admit that, maybe there were some reasons you guys got beat up. But you know what? She stopped and held you guys for a time before you were able to beat her. But you had to come with like more veterans, a bigger army, and you were just desperate to beat her after the big fail. And you were probably laughed at by other kingdoms nearby. So, yeah, in my other video where you get to see what if she actually held them back permanently, I recommend you watch that video. Now, here are my last thoughts on this. The what if scenario. What if Queen Dihya was able to get support from the Byzantines or the Visigoths? It would be extremely difficult for the Byzantine Empire to give any support, because during this time they have abandoned Africa and were trying to keep what they could, since their military was stretched and resources were thin due to always having wars with the Sassanid Empire and even trying to reclaim lands during the time of Belisarius, the last great Roman. Which, when you understand the historic point where Belisarius was able to take over North Africa at the time and Italy and all these other lands that were once of the Roman Empire, that took a lot of money. That took a lot of manpower, and paying for a military is expensive. very expensive. The resources you need, the manpower, the wages, it's just so much. So I like to think, what would happen if Justinian did not invest all the money he had into reclaiming all the lands to reunite the Roman Empire again? I would think they might have spent it more on defenses, maybe making their economy better, but then they would always still have that beef with the Sassanid Empire. I like to think in an alternate reality where the Sassanids and the Byzantines just said, you know what, let's just be at peace. Let's just stop trying to push each other and, stir things up. And if they made a non aggression pact and decide, hey, you know what, let's just honor that, I believe Islam would not expand because both of them would beat Islam so bad, Islam wouldn't even exist anymore. Because these two kingdoms were powerful. Either a great, powerful nomad or kingdom comes to take them down, or they have civil wars and fall. Because as the Lord Jesus Christ says, a house divided amongst itself cannot stand. So, and my last thoughts, as for the Visigoths, they could have sent some military aid or resources. However, most likely, I would think they would just see it as not their problem. They would just make sure to protect their shores or leave it be. Because the Visigoths, they had their issues as well. But I just like to think, what would happen if the Byzantines said to Queen Dihya, here are some resources, go and fight and push them back. And they would probably just have a relationship of two independent kingdoms, because Queen Dihya, she wouldn't be like a subject to the Byzantine. She just wanted to kick the Muslims out because of the despicable things they were doing when they were ravaging the land. And man, the Berbers, they fought hard. So hard, even the Muslims were like, whoa, these guys fight as hard, if not harder than us. So imagine, them being surprised, So those are my thoughts of Queen Dihya, the queen of North Africa of that time. The woman who slowed down and for a time stopped Islam from growing. All right, God bless.